somebody had said Clemson would be a top 3 team in the SEC.
Mhm.
So now, Efficient, since you know this person, I want you to kind of go ahead and give what his reasoning was. Then we're gonna dispute of why this is wrong. But go ahead. Or you might think it's right.
Well, Clemson's been a really good program since what 2015?
Yeah.
2015, 2016. So that's the whole argument is Clemson's a better program, in which they are a really good program, but Clemson's a better program. And you look at Clemson's top 3 in the SEC, and you think, okay, Alabama, Georgia, LSU. If you're talking right now, you think of those 3 teams, and Clemson's behind them.
Yeah,
I mean they are. I looked up the talent composite for those 2 teams, and Clemson has more talent. It's by 1 spot or 2, which is pretty much splitting hairs, but they do have a little bit more talent, and they recruit very, very well. But you have to also consider what conference they play in, and then, the history of LSU, where they struggle, kind of struggle in the SEC West, but then they win a national title. LSU has won a national title with the past 3 head coaches that they've had.
Mm-hmm.
There has not been a head coach that they have not won a national title with in, is it 20 years now? Probably not 20 years, but it's close.
Still going to change.
And so, yeah, so it's close. Clemson, on the other hand, if we're talking right now, ever since the Brandon Streeter experiment, they've fallen off. We all know the DJ ukulele incident. It was a disaster. Garrett Riley will probably fix those problems, I'm going to assume. But if we're talking right now, Clemson is number 4 in the SEC, if not number 5.
I was going to say, I would argue that because you talk about top 3 teams. We'll go ahead and say, like you said, Alabama, Georgia. I'm throwing Tennessee in there. I can see
right now.
I can see LSU. And then you kind of just look at the way that South Carolina ended off their season after that Florida loss, beating Clemson, being one of those teams. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And then, you've got some of the smaller programs coming up. Some of the ones that are also in the midst of rebuilding, like we said, with Florida, Auburn. Those are pretty big name programs, but they've kind of been in the rebuilding. So you can put Clemson above them for now. And then you also just look at the recruiting. When you think of ACC, what's the first team to pop in your mind? For me, it's usually Clemson, then like Florida State.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, Clemson's kind of been running the ACC for a while. So if you're a recruit, you're going, I always get to be in a, ACC championship game. Usually with the Clemson bias in the ACC, usually they're always mentioned in top 10 early playoff stuffs. That's able to go into so I'm able to go to Clemson and go through that. You think that's going to be able to happen in the SEC with recruiting happening over there? Because if you're in the SEC, you got to know how to recruit. I mean, that's the one of the ways to keep a job there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't even think Clemson would be, as of now. I don't even think Clemson would be a top 5 team in the SEC, let alone top 3. There's no way they'd be a top 3.
Okay. Let's name the teams. You got Georgia.
I just did Georgia, Bama, Tennessee, LSU, and then the way they ended off their season after losing to Florida, South Carolina, who beat Clemson.
You got South Carolina.
That would make them 6. Oh no.
I think there might be one more team. I'm trying to think.
I ain't gonna say Florida. We still building. We still rebuilding. No. I'm not. I
ain't going that far. I ain't going.
Once we get DJ Lagway, then yes. Go ahead. You got the thinking.
Go ahead, cook, Aiden.
Cook.
I don't know why you would think that Georgia. My bad. Clemson would be a top 3 team in the SEC when they lost to South Carolina. You lost South Carolina. Tennessee also lost to South Carolina, to be fair. But Hooker didn't play that game, but no excuses.
I'm saying the way South Carolina ended off their season, man.
Dude, they're going to put people on upset watch this year. With Ritter? No, but it's like, if you can't even beat South Carolina, Tennessee, what makes you think you can stand up to Bama and Georgia? What makes you think you're better than LSU, who went to the SEC championship game this year as well. Ole Miss. I'll also take Ole Miss over them.
Ole Miss,
Hey.
Lane Kiffin, yeah.
Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss. That's another team. They're not even top 6. They'll be number 7 in front of Georgia, Mizzou, and Vandy. Those are the only teams that they're going to be ahead of. And that's not impressive. Auburn, I think they would have a good battle with Auburn.
No, stop.
No,
Stop.
stop.
Low key.
Stop. Stop the cap. Say it ain't so.
I don't know.
Stop it.
I don't know.
That's interesting, though. Ole Miss versus Clemson tomorrow. Who you pick?
Oh, Ole Miss. I'll bet my life savings on it.
I've got to pick Clemson.
I'm going Ole Miss.
But I like the idea.
I'm going Ole Miss. I trust Lane Kiffin.
But this is kind of the thing, though. I feel like Clemson's in right now. They're in a state of like they're either going to sink. They're either going to sink or they're going to rise back to it. Like they're not the same national title winning team or even contending team, playoff team that they were. I mean, they're just not that same team.
Yeah, after
they had Trevor Lawrence, they had Deshaun Watson. Is Cade Klubnik going to be that guy?
No.
I mean, he's a 5-star, so I don't know. But and if anybody can get it out of him, it's Garrett Riley. Pause. But I mean, he's got to be the guy to get it out of him. And if he doesn't, I mean, Clemson's really going to be in a slump. They're going to be a defensive team with no offense, and that's just going to be what it is. Will Shipley is gone after this year.
Mm-hmm.
They have a backup. I forget his name, but he's gone. I don't know, man. The offensive line is kind of not the best, and then Dabo doesn't even like to try to use the transfer portal. Now, a lot of people don't transfer out of Clemson, so you have to fill out these roster spots and the scholarships. So I understand a little bit, but he doesn't even really attempt to. So it's sink or swim for Clemson right now to me.
Yeah, pretty much.
And not only that, just to add to the point, though, yes, they are not top 3 in the SEC. LSU is miles above them, especially if we're talking right now with what LSU has coming back. LSU is above them.
Yeah, Tennessee's above them.
I don't even think they're top 5. And the last thing I want to say on this, and then we'll move on to the next topic. I talked about with the recruiting thing. You also brought up transfer portal. You need to be able to recruit and also work the transfer portal in the SEC if you want to survive. And Dabo just doesn't do that. So they'd have a potential top 3 defense in the SEC, but that's about the only thing top 3 that they're going to get.
Like that offense is going to get killed by Georgia's defense. That offense is going to get killed by honestly, Alabama's defense would smother them as well. Like that offense is not going to do like crap here in the SEC. Nothing.
No, they are.
Man, you're talking about 8 SEC games a year.
They can't even handle South Carolina.
Well, I mean, at the end, look, postseason South Carolina and end of the year South Carolina is a different breed.
Very different.
I mean, Shane Beamer brings out all the weapons. I will say that. I mean, he doesn't play like he does during the season. So, yeah. but still, you are correct. Couldn't beat South Carolina or Tennessee. Joe Milton beat Clemson without Jalen Hyatt.
What was it you said about Joe Milton fishing?
That man got a nuclear missile. It's hard to control that thing.
Oh my God.
Pause.